The final villain of Hunter x Hunter is coming for Gon and Killua. On his way out of the nest, Gyro walks past Gon, to which Togashi tells us Gyro left town and disappeared without encountering Gon. Whether this proved to be fortunate for either party will not be known until they ultimately meet. And since all the strongest hunters such as Jing, Beyond Netero, Kurapika, the Phantom Troop and much more are on their way to the Dark Continent, it has left the known world undefended against one of the scariest Nen users who plots to spread his evil throughout the world. We are talking about Gyro, the former leader of the country known as the NGL, who has now been turned into a Chimera Ant. However, with such an indomitable will, he could go against the ant's biological programming. The threat he poses to the world is beyond Meruem, and Togashi in chapter 221 has already given us hints to how his path will converge with Gon freaks. Whilst, Gon has been reset to his default Nen settings, Gyro is rebuilding his army in Meteor City for world domination. Gyro is an incredibly charismatic individual. His own subordinates, such as Welfin, are willing to defy death for his sake, or even for his honor. There's also characters like Ikalgo that has such faith in him that he believes his former king to be still alive somewhere. Think about it. If this dude could take over an entire nation by the age of 21 and run a medicine smuggling operation larger than Pablo Escobar as a Nenless human, imagine what he can do as a full-fledged Chimera Ant with Nen. To understand why Gyro will become the final villain of Hunter x Hunter, we must dissect his past and ideology, because Togashi, for some reason, out of nowhere in the middle of the most hype arc, spends a whole chapter giving us a backstory on this random person. But since we know nothing in Hunter x Hunter is random, everything is carefully orchestrated. Unfortunately, Gyro grew up in an impoverished construction camp. His mother was never in the picture, so he was the only person left with his drunk father. Now, this man made his son's life a living hell. For one, he barely ever spoke to Gyro, and when he did speak to him, it was only to remind him of his mantra: don't ever make trouble for anyone. This came with a very strict set of rules. Gyro could only use the public bathroom twice per day, and never after 9 PM. He kept an empty bottle on his bed just so he could pee at night. If this man pissed at 9:01 PM, for example, the belt was coming out, mate. It didn't matter if he had the or bad Indian food, or it was Taco Tuesdays, he was shitting in the bed. So, of course, he had to do this quietly as well. However, one night he moved a little too much, causing his bed to creak, so his father beat him senseless. Because of this, Gyro learned to sleep without any movement. This poor kid was never allowed to make a mistake. Through this relentless abuse, Gyro learned from a young age that he constantly needed to keep his guard up. He could never let himself be vulnerable. Despite all of this, Gyro loved his father. In fact, he saw this man as a deity. Now, he had two reasons for this. The first is from a time he was fatally ill. He could recall his father nursing him back to health, and in Gyro's mind, that was proof enough that he cared for him. The second reason is the fact that his father never made him leave. So in the communication devoid mind of a child that doesn't know anything about the world, he figured this meant that his dad wanted him to stay. This was all it took for Gyro to see this garbage human being as a man worthy of the utmost admiration, as this reality was all that he knew. We all know the saying, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right?
No.
The contrast of his immense suffering compared to the way he highly regarded his father set Gyro up for a very black and white way of thinking and viewing the world. his moral compass was non-existent, as his faith in his father and humanity itself was held by a tiny thread, and it was about to be severed. Gyro finally got to hear a new perspective when he told another construction worker about the pride he had for his father. But in response, guess what the man did? He laughed in his face. He told him that the person who actually took care of him when he was sick was his neighbor, and his father never made him leave because he was a source of money. Everything he knew was a lie, resulting in an outcome like this. The one thing that kept Gyro from going crazy had just been dismantled entirely. He came to the realization that he did not matter to the world. He felt like he was not a human because of that, and placed no value on his own life. To go deeper into that, this revelation was so detrimental to his self-worth because his own father, who is supposed to love him unconditionally, treated him like a tool rather than a person. In a sense, he must have felt liberated. He could do anything or hurt anyone. Human laws and ideals didn't apply to him anymore, as the father who he revered as a deity was actually a devil. So, what do you think he did? He went and smashed his father's skull in with a hammer and proceeded to take all of his money. It is pretty crazy to think that Gyro, with no hesitation, went and reversed his entire life after one revelation. It highlights his ability to quickly judge his situation and alter what he is doing at that moment. After all, he could have simply been too scared to do anything to change his life. But in Gyro's mind, he had nothing to lose and everything to gain. We can see a great parallel to this with adult Gon. He too snapped and didn't see his life as worth anything. Fueled by his hatred of Pitou, his nen grew immensely, greater than anything we had seen up until that point. Gon's pursuit of revenge went against everything he believed in and his humanity, and he only stopped once his desire to kill Pitou came into fruition. However, in comparison, Gyro's goal of revenge did not end with his father's death. Just like abused children have a higher likelihood to abuse others later in life, Gyro, he wanted the world to know the pain he went through. His distaste for his father made him flip the mantra he was taught. Instead of keeping quiet and make no trouble, he was now determined to keep quiet and make the most trouble for the world. At 12 years old, Gyro left the camp to spread his pain, similarly to how Gon was trying to fulfill his desire to meet his father. Gyro's was to cause evil derived from his relationship with his father, as every hunter in the world has a goal that powers their nen and shapes it. Your upbringing greatly affects the aura and abilities you will possess. And since Gyro believes in only evil and knows the devil, he will be an abomination to the world. 9 years later, at the age of 21, Gyro founded the NGL. It was a nation that imposed strict rules upon its citizens and anyone visiting. No one was allowed to use any form of modern technology. Yeah, so no phones, no internet, no TikTok, no animeexplained.com. So I guess that means like 90% of us would die of boredom. This made it extremely difficult for the NGL to communicate with the outside world or with each other. This level of control gave Gyro the leeway to manufacture and distribute weapons and the D2 drug. Can't I say this word? Drug. Okay, I give up. D2 pill. Yes, my man was making medicine, but all whilst keeping it hush-hush. Gyro was Pablo Escobar, manufacturing, distributing, and leading the whole cartel whilst being a dictator. No one could mess with him at 21 years old. The narcotic made of Byra has gained an infamous reputation in every nation around the world and is the hot new medicine on the market. This is evidence of Gyro spreading his suffering to the world. We all know how badly this business spreads addiction and evil, but it was also a way for Gyro to make a lot of money, as money is power at the end of the day. His actions are a projection of his father's. He hurts those who depend on him and don't know another way of living, just for his own benefit. By stripping away their right to keep up with the rest of society, he is keeping them in a cage as if they were animals. On top of that, they lack modern essentials like hospitals, cars, trains, and electricity. I mean, they are so technologically behind that when a famine or epidemic occurs, they simply say, wait it out. For example, before the Chimera Ant infestation, there was an epidemic, but the people refused foreign doctors to be admitted into the country because they wanted to be pristine, mentioned in chapter 188. Of course, the difference between Gyro and his father is the fact that he overflowed with ambition and talent, being able to lead an entire country whilst leading a criminal organization, thus proving his intelligence and capability. And we all know what ambition and desire, especially when fueled by negativity, means in the Hunter x Hunter world. Say it with me, everyone. Your Nen becomes busted. Once he was eaten by the Ant Queen, his soul was given a new Chimera Ant body, further disconnecting him from humanity. But unlike most ants, he was able to keep his will and memories from his past life. He could have easily stayed with the colony, but he saw himself as a king because of his pride. And in Gyro's mind, he could never be ruled by someone else again. This retention of memories and will could also give rise to how he was strong enough to leave the nest, as he was revived with post-mortem Nen. This revival boosted Gyro's power and will even more, as post-mortem Nen causes pre-existing abilities to become even more powerful. This occurs if the dying user harbors a strong grudge, which causes their Nen to still linger. The emotion of hatred is even more effective in causing the phenomena to occur. So Gyro's hatred for the world is a perfect fuel for him to grow in strength through post-mortem Nen. Now, the NGL may have been completely dismantled, but Gyro was undeterred from his goal of spreading evil. If anything, this revival gave him the potential to do much more damage. This swiftly brings us to a very important fact, ladies and gentlemen. Nen is controlled by one's desires and emotions. So if Gyro's will to spread evil is so intense that he was able to resist the Queen's influence, which by the way no other ant could, this means that his Nen potential will be off the charts. We have evidence for this. He escaped the Queen's nest when Pythor was already born, so it wasn't just the Queen but a royal guard's presence he was strong enough to resist as well. Just take a look at what happened to a ST hunter in Nob when he came in proximity of one of the weaker royal guards in Poof. To be able to resist and go against Pythor, the strongest guard, Gyro needs to have balls made of vibranium. Like seriously.
Are you serious?
On his way out of the nest, Gyro walks past Gon, to which the narrator tells us they will ultimately meet again. Especially now that Gyro is said to have headed in Meteor City in chapter 315 to rebuild his empire. With Welfin and the rest of the remaining ants on their way to Meteor City, they will certainly teach Gyro the basics of Nen if he doesn't already possess this knowledge himself. And with the mayor of the city dead, the Phantom Troop on their way to the Dark Continent, there is nothing left to defend the city from Gyro's influence. If Gyro is given the freedom to enact his domination over the known world, only Gon and Killua remain, who might be strong enough to go head to head against him. Gyro has the desire, the ambition, the motivation, and the power as a Chimera Ant to become a Meruem level threat to the world. Even the dichotomy between the two suggests he will surpass the king's strength. Just look at their parents, for example. Meruem had a caring mother which he killed at birth, while whilst Gyro had an abusive father that he killed when he was 12, which resulted in being the turning point for him. Gyro began with nothing. Even the money he made from working went straight to his father, but now he has everything to gain. Inversely, Meruem was born as a king. He was given every resource he could possibly need at the very beginning: food, servants, shelter, but in the end, he lost everything. And finally, Meruem started off seeing humans as food, but he grew to care for them, wanting to create society where humanity and equality are protected. Meanwhile, in contrast, Gyro's actions show that he wants to strip the world of its humanity by spreading evil. These disparities show how Meruem and Gyro are on opposite sides of the same coin. This theme of evil is present in every arc of Hunter x Hunter, from the Phantom Troop's genocidal raid against the Gorteau clan to Meruem's initial goal of subjugating all of humanity. However, by the end of each arc, we learn that it's not so black and white. For example, at the Doli City arc, and even in the Succession War, we are learning of why the Phantom Troop did such heinous acts. They never saw anyone else other than themselves and people of Meteor City on the same level as them. By the end of the Chimera Ant arc, it's actually Gon who is in the wrong, where he was willing to let an innocent girl named Komagi die to fulfill his selfish revenge, whilst Meruem learned the beauty of humanity and changed his values. However, Gyro's evil goes beyond anything we have seen so far, where he doesn't see death as the ultimate evil, but the suffering that comes with the lack of freedom and oppression as his true goal. This is supported further by how easy it is stated to produce the poor man's rose. If Gyro really wanted to just destroy the world, with his intellect and resources, he could easily create these poor man roses to devastate the world. However, he simply wants people to suffer just like he did and to go through the evil his father put him through. The world must understand Gyro's pain. Now guys, to enjoy more peak fiction, watch this Hunter x Hunter video on your screen regarding why Killua is the next heir of the Zoldyck family. Goodbye.